Hello and welcome to the start of a reading vlog, hopefully. I always say I want to do reading vlogs and they never quite end up happening because I am lazy and I tend to forget to daily vlog my life. But we're gonna try this again. Looking through my shelves recently, I've realized that most of my books have been influenced by one booktuber or another. It just tends to happen that when you watch a lot of booktube, you end up picking up a lot of the recommendations. So I wanted to do a series here on my channel of Booktube made me buy it. And so for today's reading vlog, I thought I would start with the person who has influenced the most amount of book purchases for me, and that is Kayla over at BooksandLala. The way that she talks about books, the way she describes books and gets excited about books, I feel like I'm more likely to pick up her recommendations than anyone else's. She tends to have a specific taste and sometimes a weird taste, and that definitely leads me to want to pick things up because I enjoy weird premises and weird ideas, even if I don't necessarily like them in execution as much as in theory. What I will say is, even though I pick up books based on her recommendations a lot, I don't actually think we have similar reading tastes at all. Most of the books that I've read that she's also read, if she likes the book, I tend not to have liked it, and when she dislikes a book, I'm like, oh, I love that. So this reading vlog might not go well, but I'm still excited to pick up these books regardless. So I picked out 5 books for this reading vlog. I have tons more that she has influenced me to purchase, but I wanted to keep these videos to 5 books. So the first book I have here is The Final Six by Alexandra Monir. So I believe that this takes place at some sort of training camp for kids to eventually win a slot to go into space. I know that Kayla really likes space books that aren't necessarily set in space, and I have to agree with that. I always assumed that I didn't like sci-fi, and that's because I always think of sci-fi books as taking place in space, and for some reason that just doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. But the idea of training for space and also like a competition, I enjoy that idea. Although I will say I'm not excited about the YA aspects of this because I am not as into YA as I used to be. The next book I have here is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is a domestic thriller about a husband and wife team who are killing people together, and that sounds right up my alley. I do think that if there's any book that I will like, it'll probably be this one. The next book I have here is Girls Burn Brighter by Shobha. I believe this is about 2 girls who are best friends but then get ripped apart through some sort of violent circumstances and kind of about their life afterwards. And then Dig by A.S. King. I feel like this is one of Kayla's like legacy books. Like when you see this book, you automatically think of Kayla. I don't know a ton about this, but I have heard that that's the way you should go into it. I know that it is about potato farmers, and that is pretty much all I know. And the last book I have here is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. I've read 3 other Stephen Graham Jones books, and I've kind of had a range of ratings for them, but The Only Good Indians was on my top 10 books of last year, so I'm really excited to try this one out. It is absolutely tiny. I actually have 2 copies of this because I bought it twice accidentally somehow. Once again, I don't know a ton about this. I figure because it's so short that I probably don't want to know too much going into it, or else it could spoil the whole book. So these will be the books that I am reading for the next 2 weeks. I don't know how the quality of this video is going to go because I am going to be switching to a vlogging camera rather than this DSLR, but I'm going to rank them right now in which ones I think will be best to worst, and then we'll see if I'm correct. Shit, this is hard. I feel like this is either going to be my favorite or my least favorite. But I'm going to guess that it's good. And then Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones, because like I said, I've read his writing before and I really like it. Then I'm going to guess Girls Burn Brighter. And then Dig. And then The Final Six, because I do think that because of the YA aspects of this, that it might end up being my least favorite. But honestly, I have high expectations of most of these books. I kind of don't think I'm going to hate any of these. So I'm about halfway into The Final Six, and it was not what I was expecting. There's a lot to do with climate change, which I don't know how I missed that in the synopsis, but the reason that they're taking this, the reason that they're doing this competition in the first place is because they all need to find a more habitable planet, because climate change has kind of ravaged the earth and a lot of cities have fallen underwater. A lot of the book has definitely been about that, about the climate change aspects of things, which is fine, but I'm not finding it particularly interesting. I feel like the writing is a lot younger than I was expecting. It's very straightforward, very to the point. It kind of reminds me of when I read Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marsden this summer. It's very like lower YA. It follows two characters, Naomi and Leo. Leo is very excited for this mission. Naomi hates the idea of this mission because she thinks they're all gonna die. And there's definitely like an inkling of some sort of government conspiracy going on, which, I don't know, I'm just not loving it. It'll be easy to finish because I'm listening to it on audiobook right now, and it's honestly only 7.5 hours long. On double speed, it's only 3.5 hours, and I'm already halfway through. So it'll be easy to finish, but I think I was correct in guessing that this will be my least favorite book on this list. So I finished the final 6, and I didn't love it. I thought going into this that it would be a lot more about the competition stuff, but that just really wasn't what it was about. It spent a lot more time dealing with the kind of government conspiracy side of things. They spent a lot of time talking about the mission and if they thought they would survive it. And it also had a lot more to do with like the love story, which I guess I should have expected for YA, but I just don't enjoy that. So in the end, I'm giving this 2 stars. I'm glad that this is a book I started with because I feel like it's all going to go up from here. This just wasn't really for me. I also started Dig by A.S. King, and I'm currently about a third of the way through this. And I gotta say, for a book that's about 400 pages, it's actually reading really quickly because all of the chapters are extremely, extremely short. The storytelling is a little pretentious in the way that it's being told, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. I have ideas of where I think it's going, but I feel like I'm probably wrong. Overall, I don't have a ton of thoughts on it yet because I just don't fully understand what it's doing. I do feel like because I'm a third of the way through it, things are starting to connect and you're starting to see how characters and stuff are connected, which is interesting. So I started My Lovely Wife. I've been listening to it on audiobook. I haven't gotten very far because I wanted to like film a clip and all that before I got too far into it. For some reason, I didn't realize the book was from the husband's point of view. So far, I'm enjoying it. It's very, like, domestic. It kind of reminds me of, and this is a very specific comparison, but it reminds me of, if you've ever watched the show Desperate Housewives, kind of like if Lynette's husband, Tom, was a serial killer. Because it's very focused on, like, the family and, like, how much he loves his kids and, like, his daily life, while also being focused on, like, the idea of these games they play and these people, and these women that they murder. So yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. It's nothing out of this world, but I'm really not that far into it. I think I'm about 10 chapters, so we'll see how I feel as I get farther. I'm clearly not finishing these books in any sort of order. I'm really just bouncing all over the place because that is typically how I read. I am a mess. So I have about 100 pages left of My Lovely Wife, and honestly, I'm not loving it. It's just gotten a bit boring. Ever since they, like, introduced the wife's backstory and, like, her sister Holly, it just seems really obvious where we're going with this. And that was quite a while ago. That was pretty early on in the novel, so there's definitely a lot about marriage and, like, the secrets you keep and kind of exploring their everyday life and how, like, their issues as a murderous couple tend to mirror the issues of any regular married couple. So that part's interesting, but it's just not keeping my attention. I did finish My Lovely Wife. I didn't love it. I gave it 2 stars. It was so unbelievably predictable. Like, I could have told you everything that was going to happen from, like, I don't know, the 30-page mark. And the thing is, I'm okay with predictable thrillers if they're doing good character work, and I just don't think this did that. I don't think it delved deep enough into the characters or said anything profound about who they were. Overall, it was just kind of a disappointment, and that really sucks to say, but it happens. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, which isn't great because I thought it would at least be better than the final 6, and I don't think it was. I did get probably 30% into Girls Burn Brighter. And so far, I'm really liking it. It's incredibly sad, but I am enjoying it. I think the writer has done such a good job of showing who the 2 main girls are without explicitly telling us what they are. I think sometimes in books it's hard. Like, the whole rule, tell, don't show, is so important, but it's hard to do in books because you can't really show them doing things in the same way that you can with movies or TV. And that's kind of about the part I'm at, is they just got torn apart. The main girl just got married to, in this, like, arranged marriage situation, which once again was horrible. It really, there's a lot about how terrible it is to be a woman in their country, so I know that Kayla is really good at taking Instagram pictures, which I have an Instagram. I never use it. But for this video, I'm going to try and do a similar, like, Kayla sort of book spread and see how that goes. So I'm going to attempt to make this Instagram picture, or I'm going to attempt to take this Instagram picture on the bed because I know she does a lot of bed flat lays. I'll, like, put a thing up over here, an example. I don't have aesthetically pleasing blankets or anything, so I'm just going to try it on, like, my bedspread because it's white. But if that doesn't work, then I have, like, a fancy quilt-ish thing that I might try, but it's green, so it'll be totally different, but it's fine. We're trying. This morning while putting on my makeup, I got over halfway through Girls Burn Brighter, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm listening to it on audiobook. The only thing I'm having a problem with is that it's just so heavy on the trauma that it's starting to kind of veer into gratuitous a little bit. The author herself was born in India, so obviously she knows what she's talking about, and I'm sure these things do happen, but it's feeling like one trauma. It's just feeling like one traumatic thing after the other. And it's definitely interesting to hear about, but it's also very bleak, and it's something you should know about going into it because it's a lot. So I need caffeine, and I know Kayla loves caffeine. And she has a video where she was showing herself making a cold brew beverage, so I picked up some of the ingredients for that. Not the exact ingredients because I live in the middle of nowhere and our grocery store didn't have the exact ingredients, but similar things, and I'm gonna try making that. I never drink coffee. I love caffeine, but I get it entirely from energy drinks. For some reason, I can down a can of Rockstar and be totally fine. Barely affects me, but it does obviously wake me up a little bit. And I'm okay for the rest of the day. But if I drink even a tiny bit of coffee, I'm just like vibrating on my skin. So I'm going to make this coffee and drink it, and we'll see how it goes. I may be in for a rough day. Alright, so I ended up having a ton of anxiety yesterday, so I didn't end up making this coffee. So I'm going to do that now, and I mean this is better anyway because I just woke up. So first she uses some Starbucks cold brew. This doesn't seem to be the exact same one that she has, but it's what I'm using. Oh my god, this is so hard to open. Okay. Then she uses almond milk, so I got that. Different brand, but almond milk, all the same. And then some French vanilla coffee mate. She had Bailey's, but once again, couldn't get that in my grocery store. Oh yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. This tastes exactly like the Starbucks Frappuccino things that you can buy individually. This is incredible. I thought for sure I was gonna hate this. I got even further in Girls Burn Brighter last night. I think I'm like 80% of the way through, and what I was saying about the trauma porn definitely got worse. I think the writer is incredible. Like, her writing is so good that I think if this was written by someone who wasn't as good a writer as her, I mean, the entire book would feel so cheap. And she does a great job of giving you just enough details to know what's going on and to really feel it without going over the top. But I still think that there's just a little bit too much trauma. So anyways, I'm gonna watch some YouTube and finish my coffee. Alright, so I just said all this once already and I forgot to hit record. So here we go again. I am currently fighting through the tide of drowsiness because I took sleeping pills already, but I really want to finish Dig tonight, so I'm trying to finish it. I only have like 60 or 70 pages left and I'm really enjoying it so far. The way it's told is, it almost feels like a bunch of interlocking plays, which is a really cool way of telling the story. I also love the way the author is like dropping little hints and little bits of information that make you see how all these stories are connected. And I just feel like throughout the book, I've changed my mind so many times on where the story was going because, like, the way it's being told, there are just so many possibilities. I was starting to get super worried because I feel like often when us white people write about racism, it isn't always great. So I was worried that this was going to go in a similar direction to the movie Crash, but I don't think it is. I think I've got some of it figured out now. I at least think I know where it's going, and if it goes in that direction, I'll be really happy because I like that ending. But yeah, the ending's going to be make or break, because so far, like, I'm really loving it, but hopefully that holds true with the end. I'll probably update you tomorrow. Alright, so the angle might be weird. The lighting might also be weird, but I need to curl my hair, and I finished some books, so I figured I'd talk about them while doing this. I finished Girls Burn Brighter probably 2 days ago now, and I thought that I had filmed a clip talking about my thoughts on it, but I absolutely did not do that.
I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars because I enjoy the writing so much. Like I mentioned before, like this author is clearly very talented and a very good writer, and I absolutely would read something she comes out with in the future. But this book was truly just depressing. And the thing is, it's not like I'm someone who wants a happy ending or wants everything to go well. Like, I'm the last person to ask for that, but it just felt like, I mean, there was no hope in this book. There was nothing happy ever. And I think that, well, obviously this is something that probably happens in real life. It just, like, as a fiction book, it felt weird to, like, never have anything good happen. It just feels like the entire story progressed on a straight line because, like, you know, when it's just trauma all the time, the story has nowhere to really move. There was something horrible that happened in this book, and I wondered how far the author was going to take it, and if she was going where I thought she was going to go. And not only did she go there, she went there twice. And it started to feel like it was a little bit for shock value, and I'd say like the 3 to 3.5 stars I'm giving it would entirely be for her writing, but not necessarily the story itself. The characters were great. Like I said, like they were definitely the reason this book worked, because she really did do great character work without having to like spell it out for you. And I think the book clearly had a lot to say on gender and class, how gender and poverty are intrinsically linked to violence. I think, I've never read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, but like the way people talk about that book is kind of how I feel about this book, in that like she made these incredible characters that you really connect with, and then she just like put them through the ringer and like just gave them non-stop trauma, so now you just feel like a hollowed out shell by the end. So that was how I felt about that. And then I also finished Dig last night, and like I wish I'd filmed my reaction because I was just so confused, and I woke up being a little bit less confused, but that's just because like I can't even, I don't know, it's like the book just like dropped from my mind since last night. Like I literally just finished it last night and I already am having trouble recalling it, and I was definitely disappointed in the ending. And I'm a little bit confused as to what people are talking about, because I feel like every single person I've heard talk about this book is like, oh, that ending. And so I was expecting like some sort of twist or some sort of big reveal, and I don't know what that was supposed to be. Like I don't feel like anything happened in the end. So now I'm just confused because there's definitely like 2 things that happened at the end, but I didn't think those were supposed to be twists or reveals because like they're very clearly telegraphed throughout the whole book. And so I was just waiting for this other thing to happen, something else to happen, and then it never did and the book just ended. And then like there's clearly a message this book is sending, and like it's not subtle about it because I mean it literally puts the message in block text, big capital letters at the end, and I just feel like that message is kind of unearned because it feels like we're supposed to end with this hope about like the future and about younger generations kind of I don't know, being better than the older generations in terms of racism and stuff, but like it just felt like that ending was so unearned because the characters didn't really do anything. And I think part of that is because I don't think I realized this was young adult. It just like didn't occur to me because a lot of the writing doesn't feel young adult, but then like we get to the end and it has such a young adult message, and I feel like I was looking for something more complex, or I was thinking the ending was going to be more complex than it was. It was really straightforward, really. And yeah, so I'm gonna give it 3 stars because I really enjoyed the writing. I think that was like the best aspect of this book, was just the way it was written, and I was loving the book up until the end. Also, there were some characters who seemed so pointless. I'm not even sure why we needed the freak in this book, or the 2 brothers. Like that entire storyline was pointless, but whatever. Alright, so I've finished Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones, and I'm giving this 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed this.
Like I've said before, this is the 4th book I've read by Stephen Graham Jones, and in content, this kind of reminds me of The Only Good Indians, but like the type of tone and vibe and style of writing it has reminds me most of Night of the Mannequins. If you've liked either of those books by him, I think you'll like this one as well. This has to do with a young boy who has a sleepwalking problem and who starts to see the ghost of his dead father in their house. And that's all I'm gonna say because it's a very short book. I don't want to spoil anything. I really love the way he's able to write from the mind of a child, like the type of kid logic that this book pertains, and the Night of the Mannequins does as well, except his character in that book is more of a teenager, so like he's a little more grown up. But you know, it's that type of logic where everything is connected to a child. Things that you would never see connected, a child does. The type of behaviors and thoughts that he's having, we would call it superstitious in an adult, but in a child, that's just the way their mind works. They connect things that aren't actually connected. And I thought it was really interesting and fun and really dark. I especially love the ending. It was very dark, which I can always appreciate. It's very easy to get through in one sitting. You definitely have to get used to his style of writing. His writing doesn't necessarily flow the way that some writing does, but it's just so unique and special, and I love it, and I'm definitely going to search out more books by him. If you can hear things going on, it's around midnight, so that is a crazy cat hour in this house where they start to lose their goddamn minds and just like bounce around the apartment. And then my boyfriend's playing D&D on his computer with some friends, so. Now, what have I learned from this? I'd say the first thing that I learned was that I want to start reading books one at a time. I've been editing this video and I just think it'll make for a better viewing experience going forward if I try to focus on one book and then another and finish them in that order, like a normal person. I have problems doing that because I just have a very short attention span, and so I'm a mood reader and I like to bounce all over the place, but I just feel like it'll be better for the vlogging experience if I finish books up one at a time from now on. In terms of my taste compared to Kayla's, I would say that we definitely don't have the same taste, but I knew that going in. Like I said, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that whatever I tend to love, I'll look at her ratings and she hated it, and whatever she tends to love, I ended up hating. But that's okay because I feel like we're very much interested in the same buzzwords. So like, even though we don't love the same books, we tend to pick up the same books. You know, I was drawn to these books because of the way she talked about them, but also because they were just interesting to me in general. And I'm definitely the type of person where I don't mind if I don't enjoy a book thoroughly. I would rather read an interesting book than like a particularly great book. And that's just me. You know, hopefully they overlap, but they don't always. So I'll definitely continue to take her recommendations because she continues to pick up very interesting books. Honestly, I think my ranking was almost spot on. So I'd say that my final ranking goes like this. The thing I liked the most was Mapping the Interior, then Girls Burn Brighter, then Dig, the final 6, and last was My Lovely Wife. Now, when I ranked these at the beginning, I'm pretty sure I had My Lovely Wife at the top, but the rest of these were exactly the same. So I actually did pretty well. The only thing that I was super wrong about was My Lovely Wife. And I think that's just the way spoilers go. I think that's just the way thrillers go. I think you either really love it or it just like doesn't work for you at all. Now, the biggest thing that I will say that I learned from this was that my decision to go out and Novi was a very smart choice, because out of these 5 books, 4 of them, these 4, were all available on my library app, both in ebook form and as an audiobook. So I really didn't need to buy any of these books, especially because, like, even though I like these books, I won't be keeping them. I don't keep books unless I know I'm going to read the book again. So I'll be passing these on to friends, family, the library, or to the secondhand store. The only book that wasn't available on my library app was this book, and coincidentally, that's the only book I'm keeping. So I actually prefer reading my books through ebook format because I'm just the type of person where I like to read at night when my boyfriend's sleeping and I don't feel like turning on lights. So to be able to read it on my phone is actually very helpful to me. So yeah, now that I have an ebook, or now that I have a library app. It just seems so stupid that I bought so many books. But I do love this vlogging series because it allows me to pick up some of my physical books, finish them, and if I don't like them, get them out of my apartment. Another thing that I loved about this was that, you know, even though I didn't necessarily like adore everything about these books, these are two authors that I'm absolutely going to pick up again. Because even if I didn't think these were 5-star books for me, I think that their writing was incredible and I definitely want to read more of their work. I already know who I'm going to be reading for my next reading vlog. I don't know when that video will be up. Apparently it takes me a very long time to vlog, but I hope you like this video and I hope you come back in soon. Bye.